When I opened my front door, my daughter's yellow name was stuck to my piano bench, and my son's blue name was stuck to my drill press. I had agreed to donate 6 winter coats. A truck was coming in 38 minutes for what looked like the rest of my life. I called the number on the pickup confirmation. "This is Marlene Ortiz at 214 Bramble Street," I said. "I'm the donor. The pickup is 6 winter coats only, 1 carton in the front hall. Nothing else leaves." The dispatcher asked whether the driver should still come. "Yes, the coats are ready. The rest was not authorized." She repeated the new instruction, and I asked her to read it once more. I set my overnight bag down without taking off my coat. On the hall table, a yellow label said "Dana" beneath the small brass lamp. Blue tape circled the umbrella stand with "Joel" written in block letters. Beyond the stairs I could see more color. Yellow on the living room bookcase, blue on the cabinet where I kept my good scissors, yellow on the framed print over the mantel. The front closet stood open. My 6 coats were in the carton I had packed, but beside them were 3 more boxes. One said linens, one said kitchen. The last said upstairs, clear for next step. My phone showed a message from Dana. "We made amazing progress. Please don't get emotional before you see the plan." That sentence left me with a question much larger than the truck. What plan had my children made for the upstairs of my house? That habit of asking for a readback came from 32 years of running conferences at a hotel. When 6 departments believed they had heard the same request, I learned to ask what each person was actually going to do. It saved tablecloths, microphones, meals, and once an ice sculpture shaped like the wrong state. It had also helped 2 days earlier at the sewing circle, when Sonia and Ruth both thought they were taking the same carton of batting to different places. I had put the carton on the table and said, 1 object, 2 plans. Nobody lifts it until both plans are spoken. We had laughed then. I did not feel like laughing in my hallway. At the bottom of the inventory sheet beneath upstairs, Dana had written, "Tour options in August. Sort before choices get harder." My key turned in the lock. Dana entered carrying coffee for 3. Joel came behind her with flattened cartons tucked under one arm. They both stopped when they saw me. "You came back early," Dana said. "The workshop ended after lunch." Joel looked toward the basement door. "Did the truck already come?" "It is still coming. It will take the 6 coats I chose." Dana set the coffee on the hall table, directly on top of her yellow label. "Mom, you can't undo everything because the first 5 minutes feel strange." "I haven't undone anything I agreed to. We drove over 4 hours between us. That was your choice." The truck backed into the drive before she could answer. A man in a gray polo came to the door with a handcart and looked from my face to the open boxes. 6 coats, I told him. 1 carton. Dana stepped forward. "There should be household goods on the order." The driver glanced at his phone. "It was changed to 1 carton." "By me," I said. "I'm the donor." He did not ask who was right. He did not look at my age and then at my daughter as if she might translate me. He picked up the carton I pointed to, thanked me, and wheeled it outside. Dana followed him to the porch. "There are charities that need all of this." "Then they should receive it from someone offering it." The truck left with 6 coats. Every other object remained where it was, or wherever my children had moved it. Joel let the flattened cartons slide against the wall. "We were trying to get ahead of a crisis." "What crisis?" He looked at Dana. Dana folded her arms. "You said it was time to get serious about the house." "I said I was serious about clearing the front closet before winter." "That's how it starts." I picked up the inventory sheet. "What is the next step?" "We need to talk about that when everybody is calm." Everybody was calm enough to put names on my furniture. It was the sharpest thing I said all day. Dana's mouth tightened. Joel bent to gather the cartons, though I had not asked him to. I stopped him. "Leave everything exactly where it is." "Why?" Because I want to understand the pattern before either of you cleans up the evidence of your thinking. I was not building a case. The tape was plain enough. I needed to understand how two adults I loved had walked through my rooms and begun speaking about me in the past tense. I took them to the basement first because the workshop held fewer memories than the living room. My husband Luis had used it for small repairs, but he had been gone 9 years, and I had long since made the space mine. I repaired loose chair rungs, built plain birdhouses for the park fundraiser, and used the drill press often enough to know when its belt needed adjusting. Blue labels sat on the drill press, the socket set, the folding work table, and the metal cabinet. Yellow marked the shop vacuum and 2 storage shelves. "All right," I said. "Finish one sentence." "I put my name here because—" Dana stared at me. "You're turning this into one of your hotel meetings." "No. At my hotel meetings, people were invited." Joel rubbed the edge of the blue label on the drill press. "I put my name here because I'd use it." "Do I use it?" "Sometimes." "Last Tuesday." "Fine, you use it. That is not the question. Why did using it later become your decision today?" He looked at Dana again. "She said we should assign the things nobody wanted sold." Dana stepped between us and pulled open the metal cabinet. "Because if we wait until something happens, we'll be fighting while we're grieving or exhausted. I was trying to prevent that." "Something happens to whom?" Neither answered. On the wall, a brass chuck key hung beside the drill press. Joel lifted it from its hook and rolled it in his palm. "Dad taught me on this machine," he said. "Your father taught both of us," I said. "I taught you to clamp the wood." He put the key in his pocket so casually I might have missed it if I had been watching Dana. I saw it. I said nothing. The labels were not instructions for a charity. They were inheritance claims. My children had stood in my basement, each protecting a future share, and called that protection care. "The kitchen will make more sense," Dana said. It made the same kind of sense, only more thoroughly. Her folder lay open on my counter. She had divided my cookware into keep, family, and donate. A page behind it listed weekly jobs: groceries, lawn, appointments, bills. Dana's name appeared beside appointments and bills. Joel's appeared beside lawn, followed by 3 question marks. Mine appeared only in the title: Mom Plan. I sat at the kitchen table and read the verbs out loud. Take, clear, move, sell, schedule, choose. Dana took the folder from me. "You're making a point." "I am trying to find my verb. You asked for help with coats. Today it's coats. Next year, it could be the stairs." Mrs. Hanley thought she was fine too, and after she fell, her sons had 72 hours to move her near them. Mrs. Hanley lived 2 streets over. She had broken a hip in March and moved to her son's apartment after rehabilitation. I remembered Dana delivering soup and returning pale and angry at Mrs. Hanley's sons for arguing in the driveway. For the first time, I could see the fear underneath my daughter's efficiency. She had watched a family make decisions in a panic and promised herself ours would be different. Fear explained the folder. It did not give her permission to write it. Joel pulled out a chair. "And I can't be the automatic person if something does happen. I travel for work. Dana acts like because I'm closer—" "You live 20 minutes away," Dana said, "and you have a flexible schedule." "I have a business." Their argument crossed over me so neatly that I understood they had practiced it before. Dana feared being left with all my future care. Joel feared being assigned any part of it. Sorting my things had given both of them the pleasant feeling of action without requiring either to ask what I needed. "Stop," I said. They did. "I hear 2 real fears. Dana, you are afraid a crisis will turn every choice into an emergency. Joel, you are afraid your sister will promise your time without asking you." Joel nodded. "Now listen carefully. You responded to being afraid of choices made for you by making choices for me." Dana looked toward the stairs. The upstairs room still has to be dealt with. You don't even use it. I use every room in this house, even if I use some of them to shut a door. That isn't practical. Neither is deciding where I live before asking whether I plan to move. I needed air before my calm became performance. I went to the back porch and called Sonia. She answered on the third ring. I could hear the sewing room behind her, 2 machines running and somebody laughing. "Did you get home?" she asked. I did. "Do you remember our conversation about your lease?" There was a pause. Sonia was 61 and had taken a new library job across town. Her landlord planned to renovate when her lease ended. A month earlier, while we folded fabric, she had said she needed somewhere modest for a season. I had joked that my upstairs room needed a person more than another stack of quilts. The joke had become 2 serious conversations. We had discussed separate rooms, shared utilities, and whether friendship could survive different alarm clocks. We had not decided. "I remember," she said. "Is the 6-week trial something you still want to discuss?" "Yes, but your voice says somebody is standing behind that question." "My children have made a plan for the room. Then don't make our plan today just to beat theirs." That was why I trusted Sonia. "Tomorrow?" I asked. "Tomorrow. After you sleep. If you still want it for yourself." We agreed to meet at 10. She would bring the list she had already made about costs, guests, quiet hours, and chores. I would bring mine. When I returned to the dining room, I carried 3 blank index cards. I wrote 1 word on each. Mine, offered, ask me. I placed them in a row. "This is what happens now," I said. "Everything in this house belongs in one of these categories. Mine means it stays where I put it. Offered means I have chosen to give or donate it. Ask me means you may ask once and listen to the answer." Dana gave a short, incredulous laugh. "You want us to go around classifying your whole house?" "No. I know what is mine. I want each of you to remove every label you placed and return every item you moved." "We can hire movers," Joel said. "Movers did not make these decisions." "This feels punitive. Punishment would be making you afraid that I had planned your life while you were away. This is restoration." Dana pushed her coffee away. "And if we refuse?" "Then you leave the labels where they are. Leave your keys on the hall table and we will talk again when you are ready to finish what you started." I was not threatening to end our family. I was telling them that access to my home could not include the right to reorganize my life. Joel glanced toward the basement. Dana glanced toward the stairs. "Fine," Joel said. "I'll do the workshop." He chose it because he thought it would be easiest. We went downstairs. He pulled the blue label from the socket set. "Mine," I said. He pulled the label from the folding table. "Mine." At the drill press, he stopped. "I know what you're going to say." "Then I won't say it for you." He looked at the machine, not at me. I thought if Dana handled everything, she would decide where all of it went. "So you claimed your share first." I didn't want to be left out. "Of my death?" He flinched. I wished I could take the question back and still have him answer it. "Of the family," he said finally. "I don't come around enough. Dana knows everything. Doctors, neighbors, what needs fixing. I thought if I put my name on Dad's tools, at least there would be something that was mine." "I am not asking you to compete with your sister for a future version of me. I am asking whether you want time with me now." He scraped the last strip of tape from the drill press. "I do." "Then ask for that." He removed the blue labels from the large tools and wiped the adhesive with his thumb. But the chuck key remained in his pocket. Upstairs, we found Dana in the living room pulling yellow labels from the bookcase with quick, angry motions. "You don't have to rip the finish," I said. "I know how to remove tape." She did. Dana knew how to do many things well. That had always been part of our trouble and part of our love. At 12, she packed the family car for vacations better than either parent. At 39, she ran a home organizing business that people hired because she could see space where they saw confusion. I can understand why this felt like care to you, I said. Her hands slowed. Then why are you humiliating me? I am not doing this in front of anyone. I am asking you to see the difference between organizing a client's things and taking charge of your mother. Clients ask because they know they're overwhelmed. I asked about 6 coats. You always reduce it to that. Because that is what I said yes to. Joel leaned against the doorway. You told me Mom wanted us to get serious about everything. Dana faced him. You saw the folder. You agreed. I agreed we should talk. You put your name on half the basement. And I took the labels off. The alliance between them broke in front of me. I could have stepped back and enjoyed the vindication. I did not. Joel was not innocent because his shame arrived 5 rooms before Dana's. Dana was not solely responsible because she had made the folder. Speak for yourselves, I said. That is the only way we finish. Dana carried a carton upstairs. The spare room door stood open now. My quilts had been boxed. The daybed was stripped. On the floor were cartons marked, "Keep for Move." An envelope from a senior living complex rested on the windowsill. I didn't apply anywhere, Dana said quickly. I only collected options. For whom? For you. With me? For when you're ready. How would you know? Because you won't use this room forever. There it was again, the future tense used like a crowbar. Not using something forever is not permission to take it today. You're twisting every practical thing I say. Then say one practical thing that begins with what I want. She could not. We went back downstairs because I was not ready to decide the room while Joel still had my key in his pocket. At the workshop stairs, Dana said, Joel agreed that waiting was irresponsible. No, Joel said. I agreed that I didn't want you deciding everything without me. That is the same thing. It isn't. I held out my hand to Joel. Before you speak for yourself, finish what you came down there to do. He stared at my palm. His face changed before his hand moved. He took the brass chuck key from his pocket. It's a replaceable part, he said. Then why did you take it? He closed his fingers around it again. For 1 second I thought he would put it back in his pocket and leave. Instead, he placed it in my hand. Because I wanted something before Dana assigned it. Thank you for telling the truth. I returned the key to its hook. Dana looked from him to me. So now he's the honest one? No, now he has finished one honest act. Joel exhaled. I never said Mom couldn't make decisions. I said I was worried we'd fight later. You both were so afraid of fighting later that you came here to divide me early, I said. Nobody answered. Dana picked up 2 of the upstairs cartons and carried them back toward the stairs. We reached the spare room near sunset. The light came through the bare window and made pale rectangles on the floor where boxes had stood. Dana set the cartons down. What do you want? She asked, but the words sounded like a challenge. Tomorrow, Sonia and I are meeting about a 6-week house-sharing trial. Dana went still. Sonia from sewing? Yes. You barely know her. I have known her 4 years. Knowing someone at a craft table is not living with them. That is why it is a trial. I told them what Sonia and I had already discussed. Separate private rooms, shared utilities, ordinary chores, guest expectations, and a clear end date if either of us wanted out. Sonia was not moving in to care for me. I was not rescuing her. She needed a place near her new job. I wanted companionship and a more useful life for a room I had been treating as storage. This is exactly what I was afraid of, Dana said. You making a major decision because you're upset. I began discussing it a month ago. Then why didn't you tell us? Because it was an idea, and it was mine to consider before it became family news. At least postpone it until I can look into Sonia. You may tell me a concern. You do not get a vote. I'm your daughter. Yes, that is a relationship, not an office. Joel looked out the window. Dana turned to him. Say something. He shook his head. I'm not deciding for her again. The room became quiet enough that I heard a lawnmower start 2 houses away. I pointed to the cartons. You have 2 choices. Help me return this room to neutral so Sonia and I can arrange it if we agree tomorrow, or leave it as it is and I will finish with her. I am not asking you to approve. Dana's eyes filled, though she did not cry. I saw Mrs. Hanley's sons screaming at each other in her driveway, she said. She was in a rehab bed, and neither one knew where her insurance card was. I came home and thought, not us. I thought if I handled things now, you would never have to watch us become that. I understand. Do you? Yes, and you practiced for losing me by removing me. She sat on the edge of the daybed. For a while, none of us moved. I did not soften the choice. Compassion is not the same as rescuing someone from the moment when their actions become visible. Dana picked up the senior living envelope and tore her yellow label from it. Where do you want this carton? She asked. The quilts can stay until Sonia and I decide how many fit in the hall cabinet. She carried the carton to the hall. At the closet, she put her hand on the knob and stopped. May I open it? It was the first time that day she asked. Yes. That evening we walked through every room. Some labels came off quickly. Some required a sentence. Joel returned the lamp to the hall table and admitted he had assumed Dana would want it. Dana put the cookware back where she found it, even the heavy roasting pan she thought I should no longer lift. I told her I used it twice a year and asked Sonia for help when it was full. That answer did not satisfy her, but she accepted it. When the last label was gone, I stood with them in the front hall. Here are the terms going forward, I said. You are welcome to visit by arrangement. If you think I need help, ask. If I say no, you may tell me once why you are concerned. Then you stop. Joel looked toward the basement. Could I come Saturday and use the drill press with you? I need shelves for my apartment. You can come Saturday and work with me. The drill press is not the invitation. He nodded. Dana held the empty folder against her chest. Can I be there tomorrow when you talk to Sonia? No. Afterward, you may share a concern with me. Her face closed for a moment, then she nodded too. They left their house keys on the hall table without my asking. I gave them back. These open my door, I said. They do not open every decision. After they drove away, I noticed pale, clean rectangles where the labels had kept dust from settling. The house was mine again, but it did not feel untouched. I sat on the bottom stair and let myself grieve the fact that love had not prevented my children from imagining my absence as an administrative problem. Then I called Sonia and confirmed 10 o'clock. The next morning, Sonia arrived with a legal pad, 2 coffees, and no boxes. We spent 2 hours discussing costs, quiet hours, overnight guests, shared chores, groceries, and privacy. We wrote a 6-week end date at the top of the page. Either of us could stop the trial without turning it into a moral failure. We agreed that companionship did not mean constant company, and that neither of us was providing personal care. Sonia read the page twice. Still want this? She asked. Yes. For yourself? For myself. She moved in the following Saturday. The trial was not a montage of perfect friendship. On the 3rd morning, Sonia's alarm rang at 5:40 because the library had changed her shift. On the 4th evening, my sewing machine rattled through the wall while she tried to sleep. We sat on the upstairs landing with our lists between us. The paper did not predict thin walls, Sonia said. Paper has never slept here. We changed quiet hours. I moved the sewing table to the small back room downstairs. Sonia began setting a vibrating alarm and kept the audible one as a backup at lower volume. Neither of us called a child to decide who was being unreasonable. At the end of 6 weeks, we each wrote "continue" or "end" on separate slips and turned them over at the same time. Both said "continue." We changed the arrangement to month. Sonia paid an ordinary share of household costs. I kept my own appointments and finances. She cooked on Tuesdays because she liked to. I handled the garden because I liked to. Some evenings we talked until 10. Some evenings we closed our doors at 7. When the upstairs faucet began dripping, Sonia asked whether I wanted her to call the plumber she used at the library. I said I already had someone. She nodded and wrote the appointment on our calendar. The repair was ordinary. So was the fact that nobody mistook offering a number for taking charge. The room had not solved my life. It had become part of a life I was still choosing. Joel came on a Saturday in October with pine boards, screws, and his own tape measure. He stopped at the workshop door. "May I come in? You asked for the afternoon." "I know. I'm practicing." He asked before using the miter saw. He asked before moving the clamp rack. When he reached for the chuck key, his fingers stopped an inch from it. "May I?" "Yes. Put it back before you change bits." Halfway through the second shelf, he placed a warped board on the drill table. "Not that one," I said. "It's fine for a closet." "It rocks under the clamp." He opened his mouth with the old impatient expression. Then he lifted the board away. "Show me the safer cut." We trimmed another piece. By 4, he had 2 plain shelves and sawdust in his hair. He swept the floor without reorganizing the cabinet. The chuck key hung where it belonged. He left with what he had made, not something he had claimed. Dana's change took longer and came in smaller movements. Her first visit lasted 20 minutes. She brought no labels and no folders, but she asked Sonia 6 questions in a row about work, rent, and emergency contacts. Sonia answered the first 2, then said, "The rest belong to Marlene." Dana looked at me. "One concern," I reminded her. She chose the smoke detector upstairs. It was a reasonable concern. We tested it together. When it sounded, she did not use the noise as permission to inspect the rest of the room. On her second visit, she noticed a stack of mail and asked whether I wanted help sorting it. I said no. Her hand hovered over the envelopes, then withdrew. "All right," she said. That small answer cost her more than the apology she had given me over the phone. 4 months after the labels, Dana arrived carrying the brass lamp from the hall table. She had rewired it because the switch had begun to fail, but she had called before taking it home and called again before bringing it back. Sonia was upstairs arranging the shared calendar. Joel had already left with his shelves. Dana carried the lamp toward the linen closet, where folded sheets blocked the shelf she had in mind. She reached for them, stopped, and turned to me. "May I move these, or would you rather I put the lamp somewhere else?" "Move them 1 shelf up," I said. "Please don't take them downstairs." 1 shelf. She moved them exactly that far. From the spare room, Sonia called, "Marlene, do you want the library fundraiser on both our calendars or only mine?" "Both," I called back. "I said I'd help at the welcome table." Dana set the lamp down and switched it on. Warm light spread across the landing. There was no perfect reconciliation in that moment. Dana still worried too quickly. Joel still disappeared into work for weeks at a time. I still remembered the sight of their names on my belongings. But my daughter had asked before moving the linens. My son had learned that time with me did not come with advance ownership. Sonia waited for my answer instead of supplying it. I walked upstairs toward 2 voices that expected me to speak for myself. There was no label on the door.